Yay! Yay! Are we
Hello.
in? Are we in?
We made it.
Yes, we are in. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can see you fine. We've got people starting to join as
Oh,
well.
have we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're coming in.
Oh,
So,
I can see.
yeah. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Jackie Tapestry. Oh, hi, Willie. Lots of people that we know coming in, which is wonderful.
Architect book, sketchbook. Okay.
That's Willie. So at the moment, Terence, um, I can see from your chin up, but
Is
not.
that
Yeah,
better?
yes, yeah. Still, you sort of half chopped off, but yeah, that's better. If you can, yeah. That's better again. Yay! Your whole face is in the screen now.
And just before we start, I am wearing a charity shop t-shirt with a printed tie on it.
It's on my list. It's on my list. Don't
With
you worry.
Diamante, £2.
We'll have to do a special zoom in of that, I think, later, won't we? Oh, hi Narinda. Hi Jennifer. So there's lots of people who we know, which is wonderful. So do you want to give it one more minute or so, Terence, just to let people who want to come in,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
get
Oh,
started?
Jennifer's here.
Yeah. So that's great. So are you seeing? You can see everything all right on the screen, because then if there's any questions or anything, we should both be able to see them.
I can see who's joined come up, and I can see you.
Brilliant. And you might be able to see my strategically placed blue European teddy bear. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, I can see that.
Just get that as a prop. I won't be a minute. I just thought it was, don't know, I just felt drawn to doing it. It's little EU stars.
Okay.
Yeah. So put it back there. Okay, so 32. Should we make a start?
Love. Oh, people like the bear. Sorry, people like the bear.
Teddy bear. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good prop, isn't it? So if you're happy to make a start, Terence.
Yep.
Yeah. So how long are we going to go for? I mean, we normally do these for about an hour, but we can go a little bit over if you want to. If see how we go with the questions. It's up to you, really.
Yeah, I don't mind. We could play it by ear.
Play it by ear. I suspect if we do,
We have been known to have long conversations,
we
haven't we? So.
yeah, we may get onto what we're wearing at the end of the session, and so where I purchased them from. So okay, put my glasses on and then that'll make me feel a bit more serious. But so to start, I have got lots of notes, Terence. So from when we chatted a few weeks ago, I'm absolutely delighted to be sharing a screen with you. We've wanted to do this for a long time, haven't we? And I will
Yeah.
another plug at the end, but just to make sure I absolutely don't forget, for the people who have just already joined us on the call, if you are a big fan of Terence's work, and you must be because you're on this with us, we've also got a session with you, haven't we, Terence, this Sunday, 10 o'clock at 3 p.m. And it'll be
3 p.m. Yeah.
3 p.m.
World Mental Health Day.
Absolutely. Drawing concertina, workshop, jamboree. But we can come back to that at the end if we've got time, but it's all on the website. It's all over.
Yeah. And I'll plug the Jennifer Lauren Gallery when we plug it at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got that off. It's all on the list.
Because it's based on looking at work from there. So
absolutely. So to start, if we could start, are you happy to introduce yourself? So I've written here, get Terence to introduce himself. And I started to write a list, Terence, of how I might introduce you. And it's quite a long list. So, I mean, I sort of artist, designer, maker, adult survivor, teacher, facilitator. And I started to think, well, actually, you are all of those things and more. So can I pass over to you just to kick off to officially introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for having me. I've never done an Instagram live before.
It's your first one, isn't it? I'm so privileged.
Yeah, so I was convinced we wouldn't be talking tonight, but I have got through. So, yeah, I am lots of different things, and lots of those things I've never assumed that I was until quite recently. So, like on my CV, I don't. It's only recently I consider myself an educator, although I have been doing that for a very long time, unofficially. But so I am an educator, and I'm also an artist who happens to be an adult survivor. So I use my own experience to inform my work and to inform my teaching. Um, so it's something that was quite negative that I actually have now turned around and used to make a living and to actually get some points of view across to help other people. So things have been coming together a bit more, as you know, especially with COVID. Lots of us have come out of COVID. That's changed quite a lot of things, but personally for me, it's made me assimilate lots of things that I actually am and not be embarrassed about anymore. Um,
I
you
think,
know, and I have ownership that I'm an artist
yeah, I think
because
that's a
I've had trouble
oh,
with
sorry, I keep
being
go on.
sorry. Sorry, I had trouble sort of owning being an artist. I don't know why. It's just I was a bit shy about owning being an artist. So once I decided that an artist was a way that you relate and see the world, then it makes it much easier than just what you put onto paper or what you write or what you make videos of. So from that point of view, I've
Yeah,
got ownership now.
and that really segues really nicely because when I was looking at all of this earlier today, I made notes of thinking about two ways that we could really begin because there is so much. There's so much to unpick with all of this. And the first one was a bit more. We can come back to it. It was a bit more of a traditional, Winchester School of Art. I've got Winchester. I've got Top Shop Florals, which we'll get into. All of that
Oh gosh, yes.
we can cover. But actually, before we get on to the Top Shop Florals, I wanted to just read out a very small quote that you said because I think it's a better way into all the things that you want to
Okay.
talk about. And it was you said to me the other day. I was thinking, why so driven? Why is it all so intrinsic? Why? And the thing I wrote down when we were chatting the other week was addressing other 8-year-olds, or maybe other 8-year-olds who remember being 8 for the wrong reasons. So I'm not saying they're 8 now necessarily, although they might be. I don't know who we've got on the call, but it's probably more remembering when you are 8, but not necessarily for celebratory reasons. So I actually thought that might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
So over
Um,
to you.
well, yeah, I don't know what 8-year-olds are like these days. But my problems seem to have started around when I was 8. That's just the age. I think it's because you go from junior school and you start preparing for other things, and it's a time that I think school bullies are at their most prominent when things are changing and you're going to be a teenager quite soon. So they're going to pick on people that are quiet or different or don't stand up for themselves or have a different way of seeing things. And quite a few horrible things happened to me. Um, and then you sort of you make well, what I did is made them into secrets. So then I become like a couple of years later, and then a couple of years later, you're 14 or 15, and you still haven't processed what happens to you when you were 8. So a 15-year-old that's had any form of abuse isn't really a 15-year-old. They're more still an 8-year-old. So, and there wasn't a lot of resources in the 60s. There weren't counsellors. There weren't teachers that had great sort of empathy or listening skills for people that were a bit different. So I know now that you actually are able to say that you might be gender fluid at school and not be beaten up for it. In the 60s, people were gender fluid, but there was no way of taking it anywhere and dealing with it. Or trouble at home, which lots of children would have, parents separating, people being violent. That wasn't around in the 60s to discuss, so you're left with it, holding it, and then you start to process it when you're in a position to be able to do that. So in your teenage years, you're still processing being a teenager and stuff. So um, I've had to work back to my 8-year-old to find out who I was, and I've done it through my art. which is why art to me is really, really important. So I think that's why, and probably you picked up on the 8-year-old because that's where it starts. But also, that's where a seed, often in times of adversity, a seed is planted, which is usually a creative seed because it's pretty creative to survive bullying. So I sort of matched up that with actually thinking I was always quite good at art, but I never thought of art as being something where you can heal yourself and have a voice to help other people. Uh,
Yeah, and I know this is very emotional, but when we talked the other day, you were really very, obviously this is very passionate. This is a cause for you, and you actually, you do help a lot of other people, and your lived experiences have done and continue to inspire and help other people. And I know that you were very keen. It's important for you that you get this message across. So I didn't want anyone on the call to think that I'm deliberately bearing Terence's soul in front of everyone. We have obviously talked about all sorts of things, but
yeah,
it's very
yeah,
important for you, isn't it? You want people to know, you want people to see, understand the lived experience, and obviously for you, help you. I suppose it's that thing, you help others and you help yourself. I mean, one of the things that you said to
you
me
do, yeah.
when we were talking was, you said, if I didn't do art, I don't know what I'd have done. And I hear people say that so often in different ways, but the same sentiment, that it's a huge help for them. It keeps them going. It keeps them together when the other bits get broken. But it's sort of the glue that keeps things together until you
Yes, it is.
to the next bit and start to sort of scramble it all back together again.
Yeah, yeah. You don't always know how and why you're doing that, but you do start to make connections the more involved with your creative practice you are. Um, and then there's another thing that goes along with it is that you have to be careful as well with yourself, that you only let things out when you're ready to let them out, like drawing things out on paper, or you need a good support network to support you within that, which is why in teaching, like I teach for the NHS, so
Yes.
they would have people on the wards to go back to. I would never leave, help someone unearth something they've not faced and then not have anywhere to take it. So I've learned that from working with other people. So that, like, the two-way process is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think your lived experience, the empathy that you have, is going to be invaluable in that. And I know that there's a whole load we need to be talking about, so we can get onto the Bethlehem Royal Hospital and everything, because I know that's an important chunk that we need to cover a long time. You're developing artistic practice, but so that was, I suppose, that was a sort of a raw introduction. But I know it's something that you feel important about, and if there's people that it can impact on and help inspire them and change from what you've been through to inspire them, and I know that that's what you want. So I suppose going back now to more of a traditional introduction, was you did train, you did go to art school, you did go to Winchester School of Arts, didn't you? I think you did, was it pattern design,
I
textiles?
did, yeah, I was a textile print designer
Yeah,
for home furnishings,
for home furnishing. Don't you?
to be very specific, yeah. But when I finished there, I did get a job in some London studios as a freelancer, and I did fashion. Unfortunately, I did fashion.
Well, you like fashion, you still love fashion, but I think what
Yeah,
you
I,
was, you
I
were doing freelance work at brands like, nothing that there's anything wrong with Topshop, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with
no,
a nice floral, is there? But it sounded like you were doing quite a lot of that type of work.
no, there's nothing wrong at all with whatever anyone wears or what they choose to wear. And Topshop's quite good actually. They do
And I
use
love a
cottons and
floral.
stuff.
I'm not against florals.
No, and also Topshop is now like almost vintage, and
Yeah.
people are collecting it because they're not open anymore. But what I mean about working in the fashion industry is quite difficult because it's based on what people look like on the outside, and
Yeah.
what their values are superficially drives the machine of fashion. So I was never interested in all that. I'm not interested in someone if someone's put £3 on over Christmas. It's really not that important. But what is important is how people feel about themselves and aren't put down over it. So I did it for 13 years.
Quite a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love painting and I love drawing, and all that stuff. But then I just realised that there had to be something more important going on, and because of that, I've always struggled alongside working with my own mental health. So I was thinking the way to move forward it to make it more important to me what I do and for myself was to retrain through voluntary sector
Yeah.
for mental health.
Yeah. And we need to talk about that. But before I forget, so there's a lovely comment from Kerry Bryan on the screen. Terence, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh,
Again,
I know Kerry, yes.
well, Kerry's just said
Hi, Kerry.
that certainly helped me so much while I was in therapy. You are an amazing, kind, and talented man. And you're getting a lot of love hearts. I don't know if you can see them on your screen, but I can certainly see them on mine.
Oh,
Coming up from lots of the people on the screen.
yeah, Kerry was in one of my groups at one point.
It's a lovely comment.
Thank you, Kerry.
So as you were saying, you were saying that obviously all of this you started to affect your mental health, and I know that when we talked, we started to talk a bit about depression, and as you were saying, that as a sort of a pivotal moment where you decided to effectively turn your back a bit on the fashion side, on the fashion industry, and as you say, retrain, if not formally
Well,
retrain, go back to
yeah, I
find a
did.
way of doing things.
Well, I did sort of, it wasn't just turning my back on it. I actually got quite ill at one point, and I moved back with my parents for 6 months, and then I came back to London. And I actually hadn't got a job, and I did a little bit of freelancing, but I couldn't go back into it.
No.
So I actually did use Croydon's mental health services for a while to get me through a crisis point, and then I ended up I used to work at their drop-ins making tea, and then from making tea, I ran an art group.
So you used their services, but before long, you were actually running some of the sessions there.
Yeah, because it made me feel better about myself, and use. I was of sort of building up self-esteem and having a use, and also a language to use with other service users. It's quite easy to work with other mental health service users. I find it quite just much more straightforward than talking to whatever normal people are considered to be. It's just easier because it's more open and it's more spiritual as well. People, you work with clients that have mental health. They see through everyone's bullshit. There's no. I mean, sorry about swearing, but people can see through stuff. So, especially people that have had mental health problems, it's more of a equalizer. You work alongside them. You don't work for them or patronize them into doing things. It's just a more organic, natural process.
I don't know what it is about people who've had, and you don't have to be the same mental health challenges, but I think we touched on this as well. One of the times we've spoken previously is that even through Zoom, even with the barriers of Zoom, when you chat with somebody and you're getting to know somebody, you just sort of can tell. I don't know whether it's a type of enhanced empathy, or I'm not sure what it is, but there is a sense of the person that you're chatting to has also experienced some sort of mental health challenges, albeit in whatever dimension. And like sort of an intangible thing, but it's quite a gut feeling. It's like a gut instinct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to put your finger on, isn't it? Yeah. I think it.
Yeah.
I think it is empathy. I think it probably does come down to empathy.
Yeah, and empathy is a way in, obviously the clearest way in to help someone, or sometimes, or you can, I mean, we haven't obviously been able to hug anyone, but sometimes someone might just need a hug and that's all they need. And luckily I haven't got occupational therapy training, so I'm seen as a bit inappropriate with clients, which is absolutely fine. I'm just myself. And if you're just yourself, then you use what you have to reach people. I haven't read all the books, but I sort of, sometimes the difference between me and a therapist is a couple of volumes of psychiatry books, and that's all it is.
So I mean, we talked about that, didn't you? You know, saying that in a way that what you're doing is a type of, it's art therapy, albeit not necessarily with the formal training. But I don't think that in any way lessens the quality of the support, does it? because of your lived experiences. It's an interesting one that you say in a way, you know, because you're allowed to almost hug and get away with a bit more. And I don't mean that in any weird way. You know, you can be
No.
human and giving, you know, somebody without maybe being sort of, oh, you know, we're not allowed to hug the client sort of thing. And no, I can see that. One thing that again you said I wrote, because I wrote down lots of, there were so many fantastic little nuggets of quotes when we've spoken before. I've tried to write them down. You wrote, one of the ways that you combated your depression around the time that you started getting involved with the centre in Croydon, and you said, was to put a pen to paper and draw. And you mentioned the word drawing a few times, and obviously we are the big draw, albeit we look at mark making in its much broader sense. But drawing is and does play a very central part in your current and evolving arts practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, more and more so. Yeah, it's my black and white drawing is the thing I do the most of.
The Microphone series, is that?
I guess it's the thing that drawing is the thing that brings me the most soothing qualities and the most. It's like a drawing instead of a diary entry. It used to be a drawing instead of having a gin and tonic late at night. I've got to be honest about that. It helps me. It stops. I don't overdrink, but I used to drink quite a bit of alcohol. Drawing actually stops me doing those things. Drawing also is a repository for tendencies for OCD. So I draw my OCD. So it's the one thing with, if I draw my OCD or use it as a way to channel drawing, then actually OCD is a good thing and not a destructive thing, because there's two sides to everything. There's two sides to even things that you think are the worst things about you are also your biggest strengths. So
I think anybody who lives with something like that, you almost have to find, I don't know if the positive is probably not the right word, but you know, you live with it, don't you? And you have to find positive ways to try and channel what you do and what you do best, I think. You know, so, and
yeah,
your drawing
yeah,
obviously helps you. And I love that analogy of, you know, it used to be a gin and tonic and then it became a diary and then it became a visual drawn diary. I think that's incredibly powerful.
yeah. I hadn't thought of it like that. I don't. It's like the more talks I do, the more daring I am with what I put into it. So I've slipped the gin and tonic in there quite cleverly, and that,
Yeah.
yeah. But it really, I think I said something for Jen for a video, or it's better than taking extra medication, you know, self-medicating when you know it's not that good for you. And that this is just what I do to keep myself balanced.
Yeah.
Not overly balanced, but
I think a
you
lot of
know,
people,
balanced enough.
types of creative people, a lot of people, I think they do visual diaries. I think
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's almost a way of putting it out and exercising it, isn't it? Sort of getting out, for better or for worse. It could almost be a really lovely thing that you exercise and you want to keep and you can return to on the paper, but it could also be something that's, you know, almost more of a, let's exercise that demon and then we can, you know, we don't have to look at it again. It's
Yeah,
there's something
yeah.
there.
It
And I
doesn't have to
see
be
that
for
in your work.
keeps, does it?
No, no, and I think in some of your drawings you can see that tension, I think.
Yeah, and I also put lots of text in my work, like as backgrounds, and just put odd words. And it's when I use it all to when I'm working something out in my head about what I want. Sometimes when I want to do a certain picture, I plan what it's going to be about.
Yeah.
Other pictures come out of a bit of just general distress or frustration. I mean, I think I've been thinking about it, a lot of it comes out with frustration of having to try and function in the real world when I actually don't feel that I belong in the real world. And I think a lot of people that have mental health problems aren't treated like they belong in the real world. And then that causes a whole anxiety of its own. So it could be because you don't feel you fit in, or because people make you feel that you don't fit in. So it's not good for our mental health when people don't think we fit in with something we don't want to fit in with anyway.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do. I do see what you mean.
You know, people that are the odd ones out, well, that's good that they're the odd ones out. It just doesn't feel good when you're little and you can't
Well, I was
defend
going to say
yourself.
that it's, you know, if you return to the sort of the childhood, and it's children don't want to be different at that age, do they?
No,
They
no,
want
it's
to
horrible.
fit in and assimilate, you know, for the reasons that you touched on already.
And what people don't realise, if you're not accepted when you're a child, you have to deal with that when you're an adult. And that takes quite a lot of doing for most people, I think.
I think it does, and I mean, I'd like to hope it was a bit better now in the education system, but I don't know. I'd like to hope it is a lot better, but I know that for you, I think you were growing up. Do you want to give your age away? But I think you were growing up maybe in the
Yes, I'm
60s.
35. No, sorry, I'm 50, I'm 58. I'm just 58. Yeah.
You know, so sort of 60s, you know, late 60s, early things. It was a different time. Um, you know, the schools were different. You know, it was a bit of a case of, you know, shut up and crack on, wasn't it? I know it was when I was.
Yeah, I don't know how different it is now. I mean, we used to get the balled rubber chucked at us,
Yeah, we.
and that's got like a wooden back on it and
Yeah,
can actually do.
yeah.
Now that would be a form of abuse from a teacher, and they'd be taken through the courts, wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, we used to have a teacher that did that at my secondary school, but he only threw it at the boys. As girls, he didn't throw it at girls. But yeah, I often wonder how some of these, but yeah, different times. But I think there was a lot less support out there. And
Yeah, I think so.
I think probably bullying is still as the same, but I think it's probably evolved and it's probably more of an online thing now, which perhaps is, I don't know, maybe that's more insidious. I don't know, but it's always there. It doesn't go away. It just changes. It's like
Um,
a
uh, Quite a few of my clients, have got being bullied in common. It's quite it's a massive thing for people, and because bullying also goes along with like any form of abuse, it has to become a secret because you're ashamed of it. So then it gets really harder and harder to talk about, which is why I want to address it so often.
Yeah, it's coming back to the idea of drawing as a um, an exorcism. I mean, I'm coming back to some of the notes that I took, and and I've written drawing and bullying, but there's also something here that I don't know whether I don't really know how to weave it in, but I just think it was such an incredible thing. I mean, you had a fall, didn't you, at some point, and you basically just learned to draw with your left hand.
Oh, I fell over a large
You fell over.
ceramic snail, yeah.
I think, to be honest, I just wanted to bring the large ceramic snail into the conversation because I thought it was too cool not to. So, but over to you
Well,
about the ceramic snail.
well, it's a bit like when you look at some artists' work and you think, well, why have you chosen that as a subject to work on? And you might think it's quite cool. Louise Bourgeois does the giant spiders, and yet she was an arachnophobic, and I always thought that was quite odd. But then you have your own experiences, which form the backstories for some of your work. So when my dad died, I went back to work a bit too early. I got over involved with some staying late to do something at work, and I fell over a large ceramic snail, which are about, I don't know, 18 inches, maybe a bit more tall, outside the pottery, and I broke my elbow. Um, so I did have to go into the hospital, Mayday in Croydon of all places, which is you're not sure if you're going to come out with more than you went in with, to be honest. And then, so they asked me where I was from, and I said I was from the Bethlem, and then I said I fell over a giant snail, and they double checked that I was from the Bethlem, and then I said, but I work at the Bethlem. And you can't actually make this up, really. So,
No.
and I was off work. I was off work for 5 weeks, so I did it was the radius tip I broke on my elbow, so I did the radius tip drawings of the snail and me.
And I mean, so again, so there is method in my again. So if people get a chance, where can they go to look at these? Where's the best place? Is it to go on to Jennifer's gallery? Where's the
Jennifer has got the drawing of the snail, me sat on the back of the snail on her gallery, I think, or from my, unfortunately, exhibition. Otherwise, it's from my Instagram.
Yeah, but I would encourage people to get out and start to explore Terence's work. I mean, your drawings. I mean, you are very prolific. Another thing that that I wrote down. I mean, and joking aside, you said something about actually, you know, and this isn't a plug. This is what you said. You said, you know, you do need to sort of sell some of your work because sell a few because you've got no more room left in your house. So you know they are, you know, you're doing them at pace, but to learn, I think to learn to draw with your left hand in such a short period of time, and effectively be able to now presumably use both hands is
Well, the drawings are very different from the left hand.
very,
They're more naive and childlike, but they have a quality that I wouldn't normally have if I drew with my right hand.
yeah.
So there are something I think, oh, I don't know if I can get away with that. It's a bit. And my mum would say, "What were you thinking drawing that?" And then I'll show her something I can, and she's, "Oh, you used to draw so lovely and stuff." So it's just I quite like the
That was,
spontaneity of not being able to control a drawing or a line. And that's what I encourage in other people.
oh, that's so funny. It's like my mum saying, "Kate, what do you do? What do you actually do?" Or why don't you put a nice trouser suit on? Like, I'm not going to say, but somebody that I grew up with. Yeah, it's always going to be like that, though, isn't it? But I would encourage.
Yes, it is. And actually, you sort of take it as a compliment because if your parents disapprove of your artwork, it's probably quite cool,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, at your job, you're probably doing something right. But I would encourage people to seek out the ceramic snail. There is, it's a bit sort
It's
of,
a drawing. It's a drawing,
more
yeah.
emblematic, I think, as well, isn't it, of a bigger sort of experience that you were exploring and pushing into your work. I mean, I can see that Jennifer's put her link on the screen, which is fantastic. Is this a good time to talk about Jennifer, because she has been a big influence,
Yeah,
hasn't she? I mean,
she
transformative.
has.
I don't know if that's too big a word. I mean, she really has. Well, she's supported you, hasn't she, through the last? I don't know how long you've been
She's,
in the gallery.
yeah, she's,
All the potential, basically, and she
this is the
represents.
bit I might get a bit emotional because she's done such a lot for me. And, hold on.
You don't have to, Terence. I mean, Jennifer's there on the screen.
No, she's just instrumental in me building my confidence back up and getting me to show my work. And I don't like talking in public. I don't like doing Zoom and all that sort of. And she's sort of gently pushed me to keep doing it. And if she hadn't, I'd have probably avoided it. And if I'd have avoided it, I wouldn't have. It would have made surviving lockdown really difficult because I was quite busy in lockdown. She encouraged me to sell my work through Instagram on,
Yeah.
I've forgotten what it's called. But you know, and oh, you know, if I say I can't do things, she'll send out how to do it. She'll send me an email of how to do it. Most people don't do things like that, and you know, and her gallery, I've shown work with her shows and stuff. It's just absolutely, it's like the support of a parent. It's just really incredible, really. And she encouraged me to do black and white stuff. And black and white stuff's now my proper life's work. It's what any messages I want to send out to help other people, it's through my black and white work because it's so distinct and it's so,
Yeah.
you can see things in it, you can see contrasts in it. Whereas my colour work, I can create moods that are really happy and everything. But my colour work's just bread and butter money. My black and white work, I want people to understand and read things into it. And maybe someone might have an 8-year-old that's struggling, that sees something I've drawn. And if they do that and they contact me, I'll talk to them about it. It's that what I'm trying to create. If I'm going to leave any sort of legacy through my work, it would be that, which I never realised
And
that would ever happen to
said
me.
that Jennifer encouraged you to develop your monochrome work as well.
Yeah, she did. She really did. Yeah, and she, you know, you get mentors and you get agents and you get people. Um, this is all those things, but it's actually a bit more than that. I can't explain exactly how much it's done for me, but it's just, I'd rather have Jennifer than win the lottery.
Oh, Oh, Jennifer, she's obviously on listening to all this, and I'm sure that also,
Yeah.
hat tip.
Sorry, Jennifer, but you're not going to win the lottery, and I think actually I've sort of already won the lottery
Well, I mean,
with
Jennifer and
having
I
Jen
have
on my side.
said before, if we ever did win the lottery, we'd club together and we'd set up our own, like, in real life physical gallery space. Anyway, that's
Yes,
a conversation. But
yes,
you know that the Big Draw are a huge fan of the work that Jennifer's doing, and actually, as we've already said at the beginning, the session that Terence is running this Sunday is one of a series of sessions over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So if you please check out our website and social media, you can see all the details for that. So I just
yeah.
one thing I wanted to wrote here as well is Royal Academy. You need to talk about the Royal Academy.
I did get accepted at the Royal Academy Summer Show. I was one of, I think, 6 artists that Jennifer helped. So 6 of Jennifer artists are in the Royal Academy show. So I've tried quite a few times, and I got in with a black and white drawing based on lockdown.
Yeah.
So I was in quite a while at lockdown, probably 8 weeks, and I only saw the cashier at Sainsbury's and some birds in the park. And I was worried that I was going to go feral because I started to not get dressed and stuff,
I think that's
which is fine.
That's the title, isn't it?
Return to Feral's the title, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I haven't actually, I've been so busy with Big Draw stuff recently, I haven't had a chance to get to the Royal Academy exhibition yet, but I am going next Friday. So I will seek out your piece. And I know that the Royal Academy's website has got all the artworks online as well, because I did have a look. And obviously they're all on there as well. So people can go on the Royal Academy website as well and see the work that you got in.
That's right, and it's also it seems to have a lot more self-taught artists and outsider artists represented this year.
It was
just the general feeling is, and it's curated really beautifully this year, and there's more space to it. You don't have to keep looking up at the top to see some work. Mine's sort of quite low down. 412, I think mine is.
412.
Just as a.
I'll check it out.
It might not be.
No,
they have a varnishing day, which is.
It's so distinct. It will. On the website, you can see immediately. It's going to stand out from.
And it's on Jen's website as well. So.
Yeah. So please again.
And all the other artists' work you can see from Jen's, who she represents. So.
We've got another comment here. I think someone else that knows you. So is it Jan Lilly? Known you since the 90s. You're such a gentle soul, great artist. And Penny, who is a dear friend and associate of mine, said, love Yinka for this. I don't know whether Penny's had a chance to get to the exhibition yet. But if you do go, Penny, check out Terence's fantastic work. So just getting back to, we were thinking about current practice, the monochrome work. You touched a little bit on colour. Do you want to say anything else about the colour and how and where colour comes into your work or not? Because some of your work is incredibly colourful, isn't it?
Yeah, there is. So my training, part of working as a freelance designer, is I had to recolour things. So I've worked with knowing palettes of colours and what things go together, and I did work. That's what I mainly did in the fashion industry, but I also like colour and I like very decorative stuff. But it doesn't seem as serious as my black and white work to me. It doesn't tell as big a story. It doesn't have such a defined narrative to it. It's more, it is, I do love colour and I still enjoy working in colour. But it depends what mood I'm in. I go through little phases. I've done a lot of colourful things recently. Because I've been doing stuff for different exhibitions, and also my ceramic work, it is always black and white.
Because of course you do ceramics as well.
Yeah, that's always black and white, and probably the connection with the ceramics and the drawings is that I put drawings on the ceramics. So, but to draw onto clay gives it more of a broken down, a bit like working with your left hand. That's how it looks.
Yes. So do you sometimes now deliberately draw with your left hand to get a different type of drawing or a different type of mark?
I haven't for a while, to be honest. but what I do is try and change the pressure with my right hand when I draw with it to make the marks, or draw on canvas where you cannot draw an exact straight line because of the
Yeah.
grooves on the canvas. So I do draw on canvas to get a broken line,
Well, that's interesting.
to give it sort of a naive sort of look.
Yeah. I mean, that was really some of the questions I was going to ask, a bit more sort of practical questions, because people often like to know about a bit more about the process for you. So, you know, I mean, you draw every day, don't you? So if you were going to sit down to draw, how do you decide whether you're going to sort of sit down or whether it's going to be sort of a sketch, or actually it's just not feeling it today, or whether it's going to be something a bit more monumental? What's the process? What materials are you using? How are you?
It all depends how I feel on the day, but I have lots of sketchbooks that I do bits and bobs in.
Yeah.
So I sometimes use a sketchbook. I sometimes have a Word.
Yeah.
I usually,
The words are
well, I turn all my phones off, and I usually play Kate Bush or something similar.
Do you?
And then I go from there. So when I do colourful pictures, I play ABBA, and when I do cathartic pictures, I play Tori Amos and Kate Bush, and then I play all. So music usually influences what I do, and because I like poetry, and I really like horror films, so I might have been watching loads of horror films and getting ideas from horror films.
Yeah.
Because I like looking at. I think if you look at extreme things that are outside of yourself, like for instance, if there's a really bad thunderstorm, it can sometimes balance how you feel inside, and it calms you down, or heavy rain and stuff. So I tend to use music in that way. So some emotional music would for black and white, and then something happy for colour.
Yeah.
Or discos for colour, to be honest.
Gee, I love that. I just can imagine. Yeah, I love Kate Bush as well. I do a really, no, I shouldn't say that. I do a mean impression of Wuthering Heights with all the actions. But maybe that's not one for.
Do you think we should keep that for another time?
I know, it's probably not quite right for this call. It's interesting about sketchbooks. This is something I think I hear almost every day is the role, the value of keeping sketchbooks. And that's whether for professional artists or whatever professional artists even means. To be honest, that's a bit of a continuum. It's a bit of a tag anyway. But just as a way of collecting thoughts and the process, this being able to move away from things having to be almost sort of glossy, finished, finalized, that there's something about the sketchbook that allows you to feel more able to put those thoughts down in a sketchy way in process, and that's okay. It sounds like it's important for you as well of your practice.
Also, I remember at art school it always shows your working mind. That's what a sketchbook's for, your working mind, not a finished piece of work. I struggled with sketchbooks because I like everything to be finished.
Yeah. It's that thing about
because I'm a perfectionist, I often won't let someone see a sketchbook because it's got my rough workings in it. I probably could bear to do it now.
Really interesting.
But a sketchbook, and also because I'm trying to I've been using concertina as a extension of a sketchbook. And something, if you do a concertina, I don't know if anyone is coming on Sunday to the workshop, but we're doing just a little plug there. We're doing concertinas to show how you can develop ideas as a sort of journey.
I think we have got a few spaces left, so I hope people will want to come and join us. We'll all be there on Sunday, won't we? If there is people that want to come on, we definitely have got a few spaces left. So where are we up to? The other thing that I put about black and white work, I think we probably covered it, Terence, was one of the things that I thought was quite powerful when you were talking about the black and white work, was this idea of, you said it's me not being shut down. So it's coming back to that idea of having a voice, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know if you wanted to say any more about that. The other thing, I mean, I know these are all these little quotes that I've written down, but I just think they were so powerful. The other one that I really loved that you said, and actually it was very Ruskinian, and the big drawer, as you probably know, has lots of links to John Ruskin. So the guild that John Ruskin set up put the seed funding in to set up the campaign for drawing, which is the big draw. So we have a direct lineage back to yes, it's an interesting one. But so I mean, John Ruskin was a huge fan of drawing and architecture and mark making and drawing to learn and drawing to see and all those sorts of things. And you said the other week, the more I draw, the clearer I get, and I just love that. Yeah, that could be put that all over the website. The more I get, the clearer. The more I draw, the clearer I get. It just sort of says it.
Did I say that?
You said that. That's yours.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay.
You don't
The more I draw. Well, that's true. It's like sometimes it's the sort of thing you can't see what's right under in your way, can you? Sometimes you can't see what is right under your eyes, and the thing about drawing and doing art is you need to do it because you want to do it for you. And if you can, at art school, I got so caught up in that I had to be as good as other people, and that just meant that I had to be the same as other people or work in the same way.
Dead boring.
Most great creative stuff has got a background of some chaos going on.
Yeah, no.
And that's why it's so good, because you can make something out of chaos.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because trauma and mental health feels so chaotic sometimes. And so you just feel you can't get out of it. But there are ways of getting out. There are ways of easing it for yourself. And I just choose drawing. But someone might want to knit. Someone might want to make hats. I don't know. Someone might want to sing or something.
It doesn't really matter, does it, what the creative outlet is? I think often it's it's a tactile thing. Not always. You could sing, yeah. I mean, for me, it's much closer to it's the having something. It's the knitting, the sewing, that hand to eye movement with the drawing. It's more that. But yeah, you're right. Other people, it could be singing, or I suppose it could be sport or swimming or running. And there's lots of evidences around running with mental health. I suppose it's a way of channeling. It's a way of channeling it into a more positive way, and a way that you're able to help others. And by helping other people through your lived experience, you help and you start to heal yourself. Not fully, not completely, not entirely. It's not going to all suddenly be all brilliant and jolly, but it's better. It's more manageable, and it doesn't intrude on that inner creative core. It's the integrity remains.
Yes, definitely.
I'm just looking at the time. We're doing quite well on time. The other things I was wondering whether it was worth touching on was, as we all know, there is, or we like to hope there's a lot of talk about it. I'm not sure whether there is some funding, but maybe not quite as much as there should be. These days, the well-being phrase is everywhere, isn't it? And so everyone talks about the value, the role of arts and creativity and culture in our lives, and in all settings, in formal learning settings, but also in healthcare settings, so hospitals, care homes, etc. I mean, I know that you have a lot of experience, and obviously you worked at the Bethlehem for a long time. I know they have a very good, there's the museum, there's the art gallery at the Bethlehem Royal. And I think, not all, and this is not to criticise any other hospital trust, but I think there's probably a varying degree of buy-in at these healthcare settings. I suppose I just wondered what you thought in terms of, do you think that it feels to me that healthcare settings are having to fight hard to keep arts in their provision, just like we're all having to fight more generally across the arts and cultural sector to keep it in all other areas of provision in formal education as well. I wondered what your thoughts were on that, without wanting to sort of stray into anything maybe too political between us, but wondered what you thought.
I think the landscape's changed quite a bit since I've been at the Bethlehem, but I've just always been aware that the creative sections of groups that are on at the Bethlehem are always the ones that don't necessarily get repeat funding very easily. We get bids and the Maudsley support things, but you have to apply for them. Whereas, there'll be new equipment for the gym without any consideration of how much that might cost. This isn't, well, it's slightly bitter, it doesn't really matter, but It's just you really do have to fight your corner when you do art,
But
and
that's
yet
not just
you
at the hospital, it's just generally, isn't it? We're all having to fight. And as you say, there's not a,
yeah.
yeah, like you're saying, I think that's a really good analogy. If it's a gym or going to put the sports provision, it's almost like, well, of course, it's a given. But why is it not the same with art when there's,
I just don't think it's necessarily true. It's great when there's shows and there's, the show does well and it gets lots of press and stuff. That's the icing on the cake. And then all the people come out of the woodwork and say, oh, it's marvellous. And I thought, yeah, but where were you when I wanted help filling those forms out in my own time again?
yeah,
And there's just there's too much fight. We will always fight because creative people do and fight for what's really important. And the thing is, art always has the most people attending its groups. So it's like, it's obvious how important it is. And the people that run art always get the most cards and the most thank yous and the most cakes. It's just, it's just what happens. But then on a serious note, we still have to, I'm not sure we can do this and that group might have to be slightly tailored for people's needs. And I'm thinking, yeah, but your garden's never tailored, is it? You're still having your potatoes plot every year and stuff. It's just it's a fight that's worth fighting, but it's I think it's getting quite difficult applying for big grants and stuff, especially over COVID. Because I know lots of galleries and stuff have lost staff.
exactly. And I think we haven't even begun to see the full fallout of the mental health implications. I don't think either. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg from
And also
post-pandemic.
because mental health sector doesn't get listened to in the way physical health sector does, and our voice might be not as loud, and we don't realise that collectively we can do a lot more. But we're quite separated quite often, especially with COVID. We were really separated. If you've got a really bad physical disease, everyone knows about it. If someone's got depression, depression's often seen as a lesser illness than maybe,
So it's
I don't know.
invisible illnesses, isn't it? It's
Yeah, so if we're invisible, we've always had to fight harder.
yeah.
So I can't always reply to what people are sending on here, and sorry I haven't replied, but someone else just said something along those lines about that
You've
we
had lots of
fight with a gentler voice, I think.
yeah. You've had well. Penny said, "I do hate Grantham." Oh my God, yes, don't we all? Um, yes, Swifty Lala. Sorry, I don't know your name. Yes, we do fight in our fierce, yes, gentle, creative way. I mean,
Yeah, that's the
you're
one,
getting an
yeah.
awful lot of support and lots of hearts still coming up on the screen, Terence. So
That's good.
no, I mean I agree, and it's an ongoing. There's yeah, I mean, just talk for hours.
There's no point despairing over it. You just got to try and do what you can do.
Yes, I think that's it, and probably as a sector, maybe we need to join up a bit more than we're already doing. I mean, there are some great organisations out there that are doing the work, but as you say, the funding is still nowhere near, I think, where it needs to be to meet some of the challenges that I think are just going to hit us like a ton of, I was going to say a ton of bricks, but a ton of shit, I think, probably in the next 12 months, actually, with the mental
Yeah,
health
and that's saying it lightly.
of COVID. It's
And
just,
you always feel outspoken when you're trying to defend art stuff. It's like you've got to shout a bit louder to get. I've run groups and they give the groups basic art materials. Actually, we're worth more than stuff from the works. We should have
yeah,
nice things to use.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm doing a pottery project with someone and we've made sure we had to send art packs out. So we're not going to send people crap stuff. We're going to
I
send
totally
stuff
agree. And
we
I'm not
use.
going to say who it is on the call, but they'll know who they are. Me and them have discussed this before. There was some packs sent out exactly in that way for something, and the packs that went out were yeah, it just if you need to do it, you need to do it properly, don't you? It just doesn't do.
Yeah, and also run groups. A lot of people I work with, we run groups as if it's someone we know personally coming to the group, or say one of our relatives came, you'd give that much care to your relatives. So that's what we try and do with I don't see people as clients they are clients with mental health problems, but before anyone's a client and a mental health problem, they are a person. And I think some OTs and some professionals seem to forget that they're talking to a real person. They're not talking to someone who might hear voices occasionally. They're talking to an authentic human being. And we got to remember, that's what I remember. I feel bolshy sometimes. I feel outspoken because I'm actually quite a quiet, private person. But there's times you've got to do it, because why should we put up with it?
Yeah. Well,
Don't want someone in an OT room with 20.
I'm so glad you came.
Sorry.
You talk about being a bit shy, and I mean, well, it's a privilege to have you on the screen, but also it makes me very happy that this is the first one of these that you've done on a Instagram Live, and it's with the big draw, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
Again, that's connected through Jennifer. So
yeah.
Thanks, Jennifer. And to be honest, it's just like talking to you. I'm unaware that there's other people listening in, but what I'm saying is for those people at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, what we will do, obviously, as well, and if you're happy with it, Terence, I know we touched on it before, is obviously this will be finished, and we've got probably some questions, and we can talk a bit more. But this will sit on on the Big Draw's Instagram account. So anybody who wasn't able to obviously come live will be able to have a look afterwards. And we can also download it and we can put it on YouTube as well. So if you're happy with that, then we can do
that's fine
over the next few days. It just means that far more people who, for whatever reasons, it just wasn't a good time for them tonight, can hop on and hear more about you, your work, and your story, your ongoing story. You know, which I suppose leads me to the last bit, really. I mean, one more thing I wanted to say before I wanted to open it up to any questions, which was pretty basic, but really, what next for you? You know, you've achieved an awful lot, haven't you, over the last couple of years in very challenging times. You know,
I've done a lot. I've done more the last 2 years than I've ever done. I've done talks and Zoom and stuff like that. I can't say it's always been easy. I've done some like workshops for people that I don't know, and it's really helped me grow as a person. Jennifer's helped me have more of a public persona. I can't do my art anymore indoors and hide what I'm doing and not talk about it. And I think from a self-esteem point of view is, why shouldn't I be able to talk about having a difficult childhood, because I sure can't be the only one. And also, if something's a secret, then I'm going to make it not a secret. Let's desensitize secrets, because secrets make people ill, and we're all worth more than secrets.
They do. Penny said, beautiful, honest and kind. And then Sarah said, thank you so much, so relevant and honest. Now you're getting an awful lot of love on this, Terence.
Oh, that's so nice.
I'm very grateful that you've been so generous, not just in the time you've given us, but also in sharing, really, and giving us your authentic self, because I think it makes what we all end up with, that we can share, so much richer. And I think probably what you want, in terms of it being something that people who maybe have had similar experiences to you can listen to and genuinely take something out of. A resource.
Yeah, it's very unexpected that I'd ever be doing something like this. If I go back 10 years, it wouldn't have been possible. In like 5 years, I might be daring enough to do it. But I don't know, because I actually feel supported. My clients support me brilliantly. All of them, always have done. If I'm having a bad day, it's the client that's going to notice I'm having a bad day. It won't be the people. I have to be very careful what I say here. It might not be other colleagues.
We're both having to be careful.
Yeah, and I don't belong. You know, I've been working in an institution, and I've been working in an institution for too long, and I think I feel boxed in by it slightly. So when you ask me what's next, I'm not sure what's next, but it won't be staying in an institution for very much longer. I would like to retire from the NHS and do other work, more workshops, more shows, perhaps make enough little bits of money just to keep a bit more safe and
Yeah.
secure. But yeah, things like that.
This time next year, you'll probably be on a stage somewhere, Terence. 500 people, and you'll look back
Fairfield Halls.
saying, you'll be saying, oh, I remember that time I did that. I did that call with Kate about a year ago, and that thing with Jennifer a year and a half ago. And I was saying, I'd never, and I bet you anything, you will be.
And now I'm doing stand-up comedy.
I think you should. I actually really think you should. I was going to say, because I know there's lots of things that you can't say on the call. There are things obviously I can't say on the call. But
No.
maybe what we should sort of round it off on, Terence, before we open it up to any questions is what
Yeah,
we
sure.
do, because we've never met in person, have we? What we must do is meet up in real life, and you know what I'm going to say? We go on a second-hand shop crawl. Do you not
We'll
think?
do that.
I think we should.
With a coffee break halfway.
That sounds just the best thing ever. I'll have to find somewhere where we know there's a good trawl of excellent second-hand shops to go to.
Well, I'm sure lots of people listening in might give us some
Yeah,
ideas for not sure.
second-hand shop. Twitter tomorrow with your drawing.
I know West Wickham's very good.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah, West Wickham's very good.
Yeah, no, Terence and I, and actually Sandra from the Big Draw, who's on the call, share a huge passion for second-hand shops and taking the fabrics and remaking and reutilizing, and it's all sustainable. They call it sustainable fashion.
Yeah.
The trendy term, but we were all doing it 30, 40 years ago. Who else have we got? We've got some more lovely comments. Nuno, hello, lovely Nuno, lovely to see you on the coin. And Jessica.
Hello.
So, Sandra said Windsor's pretty good for second-hand shops. Beaconsfield. Sandra knows all the places. So maybe we've got, maybe there's a Terence Big Draw trip out there, Sandra, for us in the next 6 months, I reckon. I'd like to see if there's anybody, I mean, as we've gone through, we've tried to pick up on some of the comments, but does anybody have any very specific questions they'd like to put in the chat to put to Terence? Let's say we've got about 5 minutes left. Love jumble sales too, from Wendy. Thanks, Wendy. I thought we'd have a lot of...
See, we've opened up a can of worms there, haven't we?
Yeah.
See, what I like about doing this interview is, although it's mental health sort of background, you can still have fun as well as having a mental health problem.
It has to be playful, doesn't it? I mean, you know that I also have my own personal challenges with my OCD, and I think sometimes it's great for me to talk with you, and as well, and it helps us put things into context a bit, play around with ideas, try not to take ourselves too seriously, and I think most importantly of all, stay creative. It's so important, isn't it? In our work, in our thinking, in our relationships.
Even if it's giving yourself, the main part of being creative and stuff is also sometimes giving yourself permission to be creative, because it might feel like, you don't deserve that little space for yourself. So even 20 minutes every other day is something you can build from.
Yeah.
And you can skip a day and not punish yourself for it.
Yeah.
Or even once a week is better than nothing at all.
Yeah.
No. Or find like-minded people and say, at 3 o'clock, shall we all do 20 minutes at home, so that you're all doing it. That's what we did when we couldn't work with people during the COVID lockdown.
Yeah. We do have...
At 3:15, we'd all be doing something at home.
So there is a question that's just popped up for you, Terence, from Swifty Lala. I'm now self-employed and want to run a CIC helping children who have had a rough time with art workshops. Any advice, please?
If you're going to set the workshops up somewhere with an organisation, make sure that you know quite a lot about their reasonings for doing things and their ethics. And I mean, I do things that are all sort of organised for me, but it's actually liking the organisation that you work for. Like, when I used to sell my work to galleries, one gallery said, never work with galleries that you don't like or you don't feel share your ethics and your morals on something. That's the rule that I go by.
sometimes you have to go
making
your gut instinct, don't you, on the people.
with things like that for vulnerable people, especially children. Yeah, it has to be extra like careful. You might be able to go through Mind. Most towns have a local Mind. Mind is very good. I can't, or your local. I'm not sure what else there is in different areas, but just finding people that you like the sound of what they're doing. Or maybe approach some schools that have sort of after clubs and
I think
extra
back
curriculums
to
for creative
the
things.
question, I suppose it would also, to Swifty Lala's question, I suppose it would, and obviously you don't want to put the detail in the chat. So it would depend, I think, on what type of rough time the children had as well. I think that would probably help shape the exact approach that you might be taking in any session. So there was another question from Ruth, which I think is a very good one, which is, what advice would you give to artists trying to raise awareness within public galleries that we need to be paid for our time? Oh my goodness, Ruth. Yes, of course, everyone should be paid for it, without feeling like a whistleblower. So obviously this is a real hot potato, isn't it?
This is it's a good job we haven't got long left, actually. I just know of a gallery, quite a big gallery, that suggests to their artists to actually give them their artwork as part of their collection.
Without paying them?
Without paying them. And if I'd use the F word, I would say, outrage. You never leave your work with someone, and you never. Well, there's one person you could trust, and that's the Jennifer Lauren Gallery, because Jennifer is I've already talked about Jennifer's qualities as what she does and everything. But don't give your work away to someone. It's outrageous to ask anyone to do that, and I don't know if some places feel that they can do that because the person they're asking is vulnerable, which makes it even worse. It's disgusting to do that. Just be really careful who you show your work to, and just don't leave your work. And also, sometimes galleries charge you. I mean, the Royal Academy, it's £35 per entry. So be wary of sort of maybe a small show that might be in a library if they're charging you lots of money to actually show your work. You need to know what their policies are and who they are. Or if you're going to show your work to someone, take your friend with you. Don't go on your own. So you've got someone to talk about what happened and stuff. I don't know if that's answering that question that well, but
as a sector, this still comes up so often. It just seems astonishing that there are still that there's even what it even comes up that artists should be paid. It's astonishing.
Yeah,
I know it comes up.
Yeah, always.
Time every day. I know it does. I mean, if Ruth wanted to get in touch with the big draw, then it'd be great to talk if you want more, Ruth. I mean, I know you're saying you don't want to feel like a whistleblower, but maybe you do need to. But if you want to get in touch with the big draw, then just drop us an email. There's another one there from Jackie. Oh, is it possible to join your workshop and how? Yes, it absolutely is, Jackie. So the best way. Oh, and I think Jennifer has already put it in the chat, which is amazing. Thank you, Jennifer. Yep, there we go. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's always
Jen.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jennifer. And then Swifty, I would be the organisation driving it for my life stream ethics and trying to find people I would trust. That's following on from our previous conversation. Wendy has said, I run a teen art group as a volunteer and we have lots of issues and mental health struggles. Penny, I want to go, but I don't want to go, but I have to go. Yeah, it just goes on and on. Yes. I mean, I suppose we're coming to the end now. So, I mean, what I would say is it may be that if people want that, we could do another session, can't we, Terence? If people want to have a follow-up session at some point, maybe we could focus on a specific area. If people are interested, we're very happy, wherever, if there's a need and if Terence is up for it. And I think if people have very specific questions that we've not been able to cover, that you want to direct directly to you, who should we, who do you think, who is it best to go through, Jennifer, or do you want to send it to us? How do you want to do it? Terence,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
What?
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you and they had something very specific,
I suppose they could go through. I don't want to create loads of emails
no,
for
you
either of you,
don't.
but if they wanted to go through either of you, you could share the emails, perhaps, or
Yeah,
if it went to Jennifer, she could forward it to you, and
yeah.
then you could
That's what I'm trying to
eventually
say.
let me see the.
Yeah, you don't want
Because there's lots and lots of talk you could talk about, and I'm not the most experienced person of running loads of workshops. I have run some, but I've been supported. So I guess the most important thing, if you're going to do anything to support other vulnerable people, is to try and get some support for yourself before you do it.
yes. Yeah, I mean, just for everyone on the call, we didn't just drop ourselves into this, did we, Terence? You know, we do, and not just with Terence, but with all of our Instagram lives. I mean, they may look slick and glossy, but you know, we do put time in. We do put the time in before to get to know the people that we chat with, and you know, it's authentic, but we do our homework on both sides. It's not just, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
You do
we've had meetings.
be supported.
I mean, we had a meeting so that we'd know I could actually get on here tonight, which took quite a while. So
You know how to do it now. You'll be on them all the time.
yeah, yeah.
But be no getting you off. We've got Willie said, well done on your first Instagram live. And
Oh, thank you.
we've still got people coming in. I think we could probably just keep going. Thank you very much. So interesting. But yeah, so so we don't want you to suddenly be bombarded. But if somebody did have something that they specifically wanted to get in touch with you about, they could either send it to the big draw and we can forward it on, or if they wanted to perhaps send it through to Jennifer, then again, I'm guessing that Jennifer could do the same. So, but we'd obviously also encourage you all to follow Terence. So you're on Instagram, obviously. And you're on Twitter as well. Not really.
I think I'm on it, but I don't use it because it's all gone political and Brexit and COVID. So
but
I'm just on there.
But you're definitely using Instagram, aren't you? And then obviously you can see the work featured on Jennifer's gallery website.
It as a little. It's Wild Terence, Wild with an E, all lowercase for Instagram.
So please do follow Terence if you're not already following. Of course, if you're not following the big draw, absolutely, why aren't you following us? You should absolutely be following us. Sign up to our newsletters. I think we're probably there. I don't have anything else on my list. We've covered charity shops, which is the most important thing. I think we're there, aren't we?
Unless there's a last question, yeah.
Well, I think the final word needs to come from you. How would you like to sign off?
Just if you're gonna, let's go on a creative note. If you're gonna be creative, don't worry about what other people think about what you're doing. Just be yourself. And I usually finish by don't give a flying fuck what other people think. So there, I've said it.
It's always good to
because you don't want to regret not doing something. If you don't do something and then you come to enjoy it, you're never going to know unless you do it. So, and if I can sort myself out, I think anyone can sort themselves out. I don't consider my recovery to be complete. Recovery isn't like that. Recovery, but you can have really nice little patches of happiness and joy amongst all the misery.
Well, one thing you said, another little quote was, you said to me, be brave, push yourself out of your comfort zone and stay creative. And I think that that's very...
but be nice to yourself.
Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others.
Be kind. Yeah.
Be authentic, be kind, be creative. That's the strap line.
That's about it, yes. And thank you for listening in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone that joined Terence down the call. As I say, it will remain on the Big Draw's Instagram Live account. We'll also put it over onto YouTube. So tell your friends, share it with everybody so that we can get as many shares and likes and views as possible. And
might see,
the workshop on Sunday if you haven't already.
yeah, well, might see some of you. Book fast to,
Last but not least,
yeah.
thank you so much to you. It's been an
Oh,
absolute
you're
pleasure.
welcome.
It's such a joy to talk with you, and I could happily carry on chatting all evening. We've got so much in common and so much to talk about. But
We have, yeah.
yeah, we'll do another one. We can do another one.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to sign off. I'll talk to you soon, Terence, and thank you so much.
That's all right.
Speak to you soon.
See you
Lovely.
Sunday.
Bye.